All right. All right. All right. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am so delighted to be here today. I am so thankful, as the song reminds us. Thank you for your grace and for keeping us. Thank you for the good news. Thank you for this community. Thank you for the ability to share. Thank you for the resources that you have placed in our reach. Thank you for all of the infinite intelligence that is available to us, so we're not left in the dark. Thank you for all the gifts. Today we give thanks for everything. We thank you for A Course in Miracles. We thank you for these workbook lessons. We thank you for the desire to know the truth that sets us all free. We thank you for the revelation of our oneness with each other. We thank you for the certainty and the assurance that we remain as we have been created by our Creator. And so today, I am so happy to be your temporary guide, teacher, coach, to point you, as well as myself, as well as all humanity, towards the light, to point all of us inward to the one self that we all share, the one voice, that voice that speaks for God, that is a part of all of us. I point you today to the memory of who you really are, which is the memory of your Father, the memory of God. And for all of this, I am happy and grateful for all of us. Absolutely all of us, none excluded. All living things. It's gratifying to know that only the purposes of God shall prevail. When it's all said and it's all done, that which remain is the will of God. And so it is. And today we're back for another session of Truly Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to the sharing of advanced spirituality, advanced teaching, and that's why we're here. That's how we're here. And we have chosen in this project to use the workbook lessons out of A Course in Miracles. There are 365 of these, and these are basically the tools that we are using to help us in this process of renewing our mind, or in this process of transforming the way we think by the renewing of our mind, because we have come to understand that it is our thoughts that we experience. It is our thoughts that translate into our feelings, translate into our emotions, it translates into our action. And the effects of all of that is the results of the life that we experience. And so it's critical for us to spend this valuable time where the source of everything is, and that is in our thinking. And it's our goal for right thinking. It's our goal to learn and to understand and to embrace every thought of God, every thought of truth, every thought of reality, and to undo the practice of thinking amiss, as the Course would say, or thinking from the point of view of separation and not from the point of view of oneness or reality. And thus we go through these exercises each day with a new thought. And today's thought is coming from Workbook Lesson 195. And it reads, love is, you could say that differently by saying God is, or reality is, or the truth is. But love is the way. Love is the way, present way. It is the current way. So this idea, this thought of God is telling us that God is the way, reality is the way, love is the way. It is the path. It is what is present. And love is presence, everywhere present. And love is the way that we walk in gratitude. That word walk is a reference to love is the way that we experience life. It's the way we experience ourselves. It's the way we experience our Creator, and it's the way we experience each other in love. So love is the way that we experience the reality of who we are, the reality of each other. It's the way we walk. It's the way we think. It's the way we perceive. It's the way we understand. Love is that way. And when we talk about love, or when we say love, we know that love is the ultimate aspect of what God is, or what the ultimate source or creator is. God is love. Most traditional references to God always reference to the fact that the nature of God is love. And thus that which God creates, he creates out of that nature, or out of love. Even the biblications will say that everything or everyone that is born of God is born of love. Why? Because God is love. That is love, not was or will be, but God is a reference to this present moment. And that all there is this present moment. So all there is in love. So in reality, all there is love. And so if all there is love, then you would think that that would be all there is to experience. In reality, that is true. You would have to fall asleep or embrace a different idea in order not to experience love, which is what we do collectively and what we do seemingly individually. We turn away from the presence of love to have a different experience, only to what? Come back to love. Why? Because love is all there is. The prodigal son left home. He turned away from home and made a decision to leave home, what? To have a different experience. And that different experience ended up in him experiencing the absolute opposite of what love is. He found himself in lack. He found himself in fear. He found himself in a state of separation. He found himself in a state of isolation. He found himself in what the story said. He ended up eating the food in the swine pen with the swines. And that's just only symbolic. That's not to say that swines are bad. That's just only symbolic of that he had fallen, or he had, the effect of him turning away from love was that he ended up in a state of being that was so far away from love that he came to himself. And he said, I'll go back to my father's house where love is. That's why I love that story. Or I love the story or the parable about the prodigal son. If we could just really understand the elements there, we could really understand ourselves, we could understand our Father, Creator, we could understand each other, and not in a more real way. And it kind of tells our story that we all at some point went prodigal. I mean, it happened in a tiny tick of time, according to the course, where the tiny mind idea of separation entered into the mind of humanity, into God's creation, with an idea that is impossible, because it's impossible to be separate from your source. It's impossible to separate from God. And so, love is the way. God is the way. Reality is the way. The truth is the way. That we walk, that we live, that we come to understand. And it is the way that we walk, and we do it in gratitude. In other words, our response to the love that we are and the love that we share is what the Course here calls gratitude. Being grateful. What is being grateful? It is a state of thankfulness. It's a state of appreciation, that we are thankful and we're appreciative that results in our kindness towards ourselves and towards one another. That is what defines gratitude. So gratitude is an inward acknowledgement. It's not an external acknowledgement, but it's an internal acknowledgement based on a knowing. It's an internal acknowledgement based on vision, and a vision that transcends this time and space experience that we're having. And gratitude is like an affirmation where we affirm the goodness of God, where we affirm ourselves in terms of what God made or what God created. We affirm our Creator as the only reality that there is. So it's like an affirmation and to be in a state of thanksgiving. or having an attitude of thanksgiving, an attitude of gratitude. So it says, love is the way that we walk, that we experience this life in thanksgiving, in appreciation, that calls us to express that thanksgiving and appreciation through our kindness towards one another, towards ourselves, and towards our Creator. And so that's the whole lesson right there. Let's see what the lesson says, because obviously this is so important. It says gratitude is a lesson hard to learn. So it is something that we have to learn. That means that at some point in our experience, we unlearned what gratitude is, because when we're in our innocent self, we can only be grateful. So at some point in our human experience, we lost sight of what gratitude is. It said, gratitude is a lesson hard to learn for those who look upon the world amiss. So specifically here saying it's a hard lesson for those who look or who view the world, and it says amiss. Amiss basically means in a wrong way, or in an inappropriate way, or in an unreal way. When we have the vision or the view of this world that is not right, then that means that that lesson of gratitude is hard to learn. Amiss means we're looking from a point of view of separation. So when we don't look at the world basically means, again, the world has to do with our false perception of humanity. When we don't understand who humanity really is, when we embrace a made-up idea of humanity that is not from the perspective or point of view of God, the Creator, or oneness, when we look at the world, when we look at humanity, when we look at each other from a point of view of separation, that we're just individual selves, that we're not brotherly, we're not of a brotherhood, and that we're not connected. And it's in that seeing that it's hard to learn the lesson of gratitude. When we look amiss, when we look upon the world amiss, it says the most that we can do, or the most that they can do, those that look at the world amiss, is see themselves as better off than others. So when we don't see through the eyes of oneness, the best that we can do, looking through the eyes of separation, is see ourselves better off than others. And so this concept of comparison comes in. When we don't see from God's perspective and see from the perspective of the ego thought system of separation, we can only see, or we will view ourselves as better than others, or better than our brothers. It says, and they try to be content because another seems to suffer more than they. So in other words, we find someone else that we think through comparison is less fortunate than we are, or of a less of status than we are, or of a different orientation than we are, or a different race than we are, or a different creed than we are, or a different religion than we are, or of a different political party than we are, or of all, anytime we look through the eyes of separation, the eyes of differences. And try to be content that we are better off than the other. That's what happens when we look amiss. And it makes it very difficult for us to learn the lesson of gratitude. But today we're going to learn the lesson of gratitude because what we're determined to see things as they really are, to see ourselves as we really are, to see God as he really is, through the truth, through the reality of our oneness with God. That's what we are determined to see things differently. And that difference is through God's perspective, through Christ's vision. It says, how pitiful and depreciating are such thoughts. How pitiful or depreciating when we think that we can find contentment by finding comparing ourselves to someone that may appear to be not our equal or less fortunate, or all the different levels of comparisons that we do in our thinking. It says, how pitiful when we look at the world of myths, when we look at that world through separation. He says it's pitiful and it's depreciating. It says, for those who has cause for thanks, while others have less cause. In other words, we look upon another and say, well, I'm glad I'm not like them, so I have a cause to be thankful because of the misfortune of another. He's saying that we're looking amiss. He said that's pitiful and that's depreciating sight. He said there's no contentment in that. He said, and it's gonna be hard for you to learn the lesson of gratitude, taking on that attitude. And so he says, for who has cause for thanks while others have less cause? And who could suffer less because he sees another suffer more? So it's like we look out into the world and we find someone or something that is having a more difficult time than ourselves. And then in that we say, oh, I can find gratitude in that I'm not as worse off as they are. I'm not going through the challenge or the trauma or the drama that they're going through. And then we call that being thankful or being grateful. That is not gratitude. It says, your gratitude is due to him alone. So right here, it sets the record straight that true gratitude is a result of our Creator alone. It has nothing to do with people's situations, circumstances, nor their conditions. It has nothing to do with outside conditions. It has nothing to do with comparison. It has nothing to do with one's misfortune or one's fortune. Gratitude has nothing to do with that. But here it tells us that our gratitude is due to him alone, due to God alone. It's due to love alone, who made all cause of sorrow disappear throughout the world. So it is love that when we gather and embrace the vision of Christ, the love of God, when we embrace that for ourselves, and now we look through the eyes of love, or we look through Christ's vision, it said it is God alone who has made all this possible for us now to cause the sorrows and the pain and the sufferings of this world. To disappear or to be healed. Because of what? Now we have the mind of God, or the mind of Christ. We now see things for what they really are. We see things for what they really are. When we gain the understanding that all these things are but an illusion. That we don't have to put any credence or stock in the false images or the false messages that this world communicates back to us externally. That we're able now to see clearly because we have the mind of Christ. He says, our gratitude is due to him who provides that for all of us, none excluded. The Bible says that without vision, without Christ's vision, without seeing through God's perception, he says that we suffer needlessly. And that we have found out here in the course that it is through the knowing of the truth. That is in the knowing of the truth that heals us from all pain and sorrow. It delivers us from fear, sin consciousness, and guilt. We now allow the Spirit that speaks for God only to reinterpret everything for us, to give us clarity, to give us understanding and knowledge that bring about the peace that passes understanding that we can all now share and enjoy in the midst of a seeming dark world. In the midst of what seems to be a multitude of our own selves, of our siblings, our brothers and sisters who remain asleep and dreaming of separation. In the middle of all of that, we stand because of him who has given us a revelation, who's given us what? A knowing, who has revealed to us the truth that is true always. We can stand in the midst of that and be the light that we are, be the love that we are, and play our part by forgiving the world and letting the world go free. Now that we're looking through the lens of truth, we only see the innocence. We only see what God created. And we've now become the light that emanates that to all that remain asleep. So it is insane to offer thanks because of suffering. It says it is insanity to offer thanks because of someone else's suffering. But it is equally insane to fail in gratitude to one who offers us the certain means whereby all pain is healed, and that is Christ's vision. It's just as equally painful and insane to not offer gratitude to our Father, to our Creator, because it is our Father and Creator that has given us eyes to see and ears to hear the reality of what's really happening. And just the way it is insane to offer thanks because of someone else's less fortune or someone else's suffering. It's just as insane. It says, and suffering replaced with laughter and with happiness. Our suffering, my pain, my psychological suffering has been replaced with happiness and laughter. That's why you see me laugh a lot. People say, why you laugh a lot when you're doing these lessons? When you have been given Christ's vision, when you have been given the lens to look through the eyes of God, it heals all pain. It heals all suffering. It replaces suffering with laughter. It replaces suffering with happiness because you now know the truth. Nor can the even partly sane, refuse to take the steps which our Creator directs and follow in the way that He sets before us to escape a prison that they thought contained no door to the deliverance they now perceive. When he talks about those that have escaped, he's talking about those that have awakened. It says, your brother is your enemy. And he's talking about when we're not looking through the eyes of God or through Christ's vision. We see our brother as our enemy because we see in him the rival for our peace. We see that if our brother is at peace, then I must be without it. Or as my brother pursues peace, he pursues it at my expense. These are all insane ways of thinking. And this is the way the ego thinks. This is the way we've been trained to think by the thought system of this world based on separation. That is like every man for himself, every brother for himself, every sister for themselves. And if I'm successful, it's at your expense. If I'm healed, it's at your expense. If I if I prosper, it has to be at the expense of someone else. This is not the way of God. This is not the way of reality. This is the way of a world that we made based on scarcity. This is based on a world that we made based on individuality. This is a world that we made that is based on what? Separation. That everyone has to fend for themselves. And there's only one pie. And if brother X and sister Y and brother W and sister Z take a piece of the pie, there's only so much left. That's a thought of scarcity. That's a thought that is not loving. That is not the thought of God. That is not what heaven is. That's not what life really is about. When we understand the love of God, we understand that the love of God continuously extends. There is no scarcity. There is no lack. There is no separation. We all equally share in the one self-same resource, the one self-same source. And that we're all being sustained by that one source, the love of God. That is kingdom-mindedness. That is right-mindedness. Scarcity and lack and poverty and inequality are all thoughts that were made by us out of fear and out of guilt and out of sin consciousness. We did that. And so we see our brothers as enemies. We see each other as enemies. And that all of us can't share in the same one source. That's the way we see things. And thus you have a world divided. You see where the vision comes from. And so it says that your brother is your enemy because you see in him the rival for your peace, a plunderer who takes his joy from you and leaves you nothing but a black despair so bitter and relentless that there is no hope remaining. Now is vengeance all there is to wish for. Now can you but try to bring him down, to lie in death with you, as useless as yourself, as little left within his grasping fingers as in yours. So this is the effect of what? And this is all painting a picture here, which is the effect of our wrong seeing, or it's the effect of us seeing the world of mist. It's the effect of seeing through the eyes of separation. It's the effect of believing that separation is real. It's the effect of believing that you're separated from God and from each other. These are the residual effects of that it creates an experience. It's almost like the crabs in the bucket. The crabs trying to get out of the bucket. As one get towards the top, the other one pulls him down. Why? Because he see his brother as his enemy. He see his brother as a threat, that if the brother get out, if the brother get blessed, if the brother gets something different, then I can't have it. That is all based on a thought system of scarcity, all based on a thought system of separation. It says, you do not offer God your gratitude because your brother is more slave than you. So we're not saying, thank God, that ain't me. You hear it. Thank God that's not happening to me. Oh, thank God. I thank God because, this part of the country is going through a crisis. This part of the country is having a traumatic experience. I thank God because, the shooting ain't happened in my neighborhood, or I thank God that the shooting hasn't happened at my school or in my grocery store. Oh, I thank God because, they're having a drought and we're not. Oh, I thank God that, we have plenty of food and they don't. Oh, I thank God that I have a house and he doesn't. That's not gratitude. That is not gratitude. We don't offer God gratitude because of that. That's what it says here. You do not offer God your gratitude because your brother is more slave than you, or more imprisoned than you, or appear to be less unfortunate to you. That's not the reason to offer thanks or to be appreciative. That's the ego will have you think that way. And many of us have participated in that, as though that we have escaped at the expense of our brother. That is not the reason for gratitude. It says, nor could we sanely be engaged or enraged if our brothers seem freer than we are. So all of this is based on comparison. All this is based on looking through the eyes of separation. All this is based on looking from a place of differences. And so it says, love makes no comparisons. True love does not compare. Because true love understands there's only one. And true love understand that there's only one in reality. That what we see in a world of multiplicity, what we see in a world of separation, and as we see it through the eyes of separation, it is not what is real. It is but a dream. It is but a way of looking at the world of mist. There has to be a understanding and a reinterpretation of what is being communicated here back to us. And what's being communicated back to you is what you're projecting out. You're projecting your belief in separation. You're projecting your belief that we're not only separate from each other, but we're separate from our Creator and all other living things. And so the world cannot do but communicate back or reflect back to us our belief system. And so what we're perceiving all the time, based on the messages that are coming back to us, is what we're putting out. It's what we're thinking. It's how we're thinking. It's from the point of view in which we are thinking. So love has no comparisons. When we are comparing ourselves to others, when we are comparing nations, religions, political parties, when we're comparing gender, when we're comparing, at any level, then we're saying we're not in love. We're not comparing. When we're comparing, we're not in love. It's not an exercise of love. It says love makes no comparison, and no means no, not one. So we have to be willing to give up what? Our comparisons. If we are hopefully desiring, if there's any chance for us to see through the eyes of love, we have to give up our comparisons. It says, and gratitude can only be sincere if it is joined to love. So we're not sincere when we say that we're grateful or thankful or appreciative when we're doing it out of comparison, because comparison is not joined with love. Gratitude is. It says we offer thanks to God, our Father. Notice now, we offer thanks to God, our Father, that in us all things will find their freedom. In us. Freedom to be. It says this is real gratitude. This is real thankfulness. When we offer thanks unto God. So it's an acknowledgement, first of all, that God is. Gratitude begins with God. And it ends with God. So we give thanks. We offer thanks to God, our Father. We acknowledge that God is our creator. We are acknowledging that God is our source. God is the sustainer. God is reality. God is eternity. God is the truth. That only the will of God prevails when we give thanks unto God. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. It says, we offer thanks to God, our Father, that in us all things will find their freedom. In us. That will allow all things to be as they are in us, without comparison, without judgment, without a sense of guilt or sense of fear, that everything will find what? Its freedom within us. We will never be that. It said, it will never be that some are loosed while others still are bound. For who can bargain in the name of love? So really, gratitude really points back to us, and in the way that we're perceiving, in the way that we're seeing. Or we're seeing out of the eyes of love, where there is no comparison, where there's only freedom, where there is no guilt, there is no fear, and there is no sin consciousness. There is no unforgiveness. This is where sincere, true gratitude is put on display, where everything now can find its freedom within all of us. Everything. That means that we're looking through the eyes of purity. And as the sacred writing says, to the pure, all things are pure. But to the undefiled, all things are undefiled. To those that look amiss, nothing is pure. Nothing is free. Everything is imprisoned by our thoughts, by our opinion, by our judgments. And so are we imprisoned in that moment too. Why? Because we're not seeing through the eyes of oneness. That what we would have for our brother, we will also have for ourselves, because I and our brother are one. This is a lesson that we must learn, that love is the way that we experience reality in gratitude, in purity, in oneness, in wholeness, in innocence. Therefore, now that we understand this, therefore, what is it therefore? That love is the way we walk in gratitude. Is therefore. It says, therefore, give thanks. Notice that. Therefore, extend thanks. Extend your appreciation. Extend your kindness. But in sincerity. Do it in sincerity. And it's only done in sincerity when it's done in love. When it's done in love. When it's done knowing that there is only the one love, there is only the one self that we all share, there is only the one life that we all share, there is only the one being that we all share. And this has nothing to do with external situations, circumstances, and conditions, or objects of experience. This has to do with a knowing that in reality, all is as God created it. And so what may appear to be separate and traumatic and in danger and suffering and birthing and deathing, what appears to be happening in a world of separation, it is only temporary misrepresentation of the truth. And so now we stand as the light of the world, as what? The representation of the truth. And so we give thanks in all things. We give thanks to God, who has given us this revelation, who has given us this awareness that who we are, and who have replaced our pains, our fears, our trauma for Christ's vision. And so now through Christ's vision, we reinterpret everything. This world becomes purposeful. Our life has deep meaning. We have a role as the light of the world. It's our function to forgive all things. And so God has replaced our pain and sorrow with laughter and with happiness in the midst of seeming suffering. And so we give thanks in sincerity. And we let our gratitude make room for all who will escape with us. The sick, the weak, the needy, the afraid, and those who mourn a seeming loss or feel apparent pain. Those who suffer cold or hunger, or who walk the way of hatred and the path of death. All these go with us. They are not without us. When you walk into a room and you got 2 daughters or 2 sons, and they're laying in the bed, and it's quite obvious that one of the sons is having a nightmare. The boogeyman is after him. The other son appeared to be sleeping in peace, not dreaming of being under attack. And then you have yourself, who's observing all of this. So in reality, there's 3 point of views here. It's the point of view of the dreamer, who's under attack. It's the point of view of the one that is asleep, that seeming is sound asleep. And then there's the point of view of the observer, the parent, who knows that all of this is happening in his home, where it's safe, where they are safe, where they are one. They're all enjoying the safety that has been provided. But from the other point of views, there's danger. But in reality, there's no danger. And so as we look out on a world that appears to be in trouble, we understand now from Christ's point of view that the world is in transition of waking up. All humanity, it's not as much in trouble as it appears. But to the world, they're in trouble. But from God's point of view, there is no trouble. From God's point of view, the same house that the prodigal son left is as plentiful, is as peaceful, is as safe as it was the day that the prodigal son left. That hasn't changed. Heaven has not changed. God has not changed. Your resource has not changed. Who you are has not changed, because there is a dream of separation. It remains intact. And God guarantees that it remains intact. He's holding it for us until we wake up to the truth. And the moment that we wake up, we can now experience what real gratitude is. And it's not based on someone else's loss or someone else's pain or someone else's suffering. It's not based on us being separate from anyone else, but it's based on the all-inclusive, all-encompassing oneness that we all share. And that's sincere gratitude. And so our gratitude makes room for all those that appear to themselves as being separate. We only know that there is one. Our gratitude makes room for them because they are us and we're them. No comparison. There's only oneness. It says, all these go with us. Let us not compare ourselves to them, for thus we split them off from our awareness of the unity that we share, the oneness that we share. So when we see those that may be challenged or in pain or suffering for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. We don't see them as separate from us. We don't see them as something that allows us to find solace because comparing our status to theirs. That is ego thinking. No, we realize in that moment that our gratitude embraces their reality. And we hold that space for them until they wake up to that reality. Because there is only unity. There's only oneness that we share. There is no separation. And they must share it with us. When we look through the lens of separation, which is the root of all, the dream, which is the source of the dream. It is the belief and our allegiance to it that needs to be healed, that needs to be corrected, so that we can see clearly the unity that we all share, the oneness that we all share. This whole course has been created and put together to help us heal from our belief in separation. And it tells us that the first step towards that is forgiveness. So simple. And all this is within our own scope. We don't have to go and ask permission for any of this. It is all within our own mind. It's all within our own remembrance. It's all within our own nature. Not only the desire, but the means by which to begin to stand up and walk in this love, which we are. It is the way of life. It is the way of truth. It's the way of happiness and joy and peace. It's a way of us experience the truth of who we are. The walk of love. And so we thank our Father for one thing alone, that we are separate from no living thing. This is what we thank God for, the one thing alone, that we are separate from no living thing. We're not separate, but we're united to every living thing. All of us. And therefore, we are one with our Creator, who created it such. God is a God of oneness, a God of unity. And so everything that God creates is oneness and unity. And when that which God creates attempts to take on a mind of its own, to become something that is not, thus you have what we have all experienced, and what we know that some of our brothers continue to experience it. Some of our sisters continue to experience in life that is totally out of the possibility of love. And that's no good feeling. That's no good experience. It becomes a nightmare. And so we are here now as the awakened ones, not as special ones. To be awake is not special. There's no specialty in God. Most religions, promote specialty. Mine is right, everyone else is wrong, or, governments, you look in every arena of life and it's based on what? Separation, specialness. It's not based on unity and oneness. And thus you have a chaotic world. But all of that, when brought to the truth, can be healed by the embracing of the one reality that we all share. And so we thank our Father for the one thing alone, that we are separate from no living thing, and therefore one with Him. I and you and me, we are one. One in God, one in everything. And we rejoice that no exceptions ever can be made which would reduce our wholeness, nor impair or change our function to complete the one who is Himself completion. Nothing can be made to change that reality. Nothing can be made to change or to undo oneness. That's what the whole history of this world has been about. We're trying to change oneness. We're trying to make a difference. We're trying to promote specialness. We're trying to promote division and separation. And none of it is changing one iota about the truth. Because once you wake up, you see the folly in all of that. You see the illusion in all of that. So we give thanks for every living thing. For otherwise, we offer thanks for nothing. So we have to give thanks for everything because everything remained as God created it. That's what we know. And that's what we give thanks for, including all humanity. And we fail to recognize the gifts of God to us. We give thanks for every living thing. For otherwise, we offer thanks for nothing. When we don't give thanks for everything, we offer thanks for nothing. Love must be total. Love is all inclusive. Life is all inclusive. There are no exceptions. There are no specialness. There's only the one life. There's only the one path. There's only the one way. This is the one way where everyone is included. There's no exceptions. So anywhere that we are excluding or making exceptions, we're not in love. We are still holding on to the idea of separation. And we will still experience a level of suffering. So then, let our brothers lean their tired heads against our shoulders as they rest a while. This is symbolic of us embracing everyone and everything. It says, we offer thanks for them. It is the will of God that all humanity wake up and come into the knowledge of the truth. That's the will of God. And it is so. And so it is. And so it will happen. So it has happened. We've never been separate. We've only dreamed of separation. So as we wake up, guess what? That which was always from the beginning is now and forever always. That we realize that nothing has changed, that we've been on a dream-like journey without a distance. We've been on a prodigal journey, but haven't actually gone anywhere. We remain in the heart of God where we've always been. That's true awakening, the recognition of that. And it is in that recognition that we give thanks to God our Father for all things. That all things remain as they were. That love is intact. That eternity has not been marred. That heaven remains a place of purity and wholeness and completion. And we remain as God created us. All of us. No exception. Not one. Regardless of what is communicated back to us from the world. Regardless of how obscene, insane, unbelievable it may look or seem, nothing has changed in reality. We have to know that. In order to have gratitude that is sincere, this is what we're learning. It's hard to learn this. If we look at the world any other way, it tells us in the first paragraph that gratitude is a lesson hard to learn for those who look upon the world amiss. We have to be willing, what? To remove the blinders. We have to be willing to give up our perception. We have to be willing to give up everything for God. We have to be willing to give up everything that we've made for what God created. And who wouldn't do that? Who would not give up everything that humanity has made in error and by mistake for that which God created, which is absolutely perfect? And in that perfection, it includes you and me. Who wouldn't give that up? It says we offer thanks to them, for if we can direct them to the peace that we would find, the way is open, or the way is opening at last to us. An ancient door is swinging free again. A long forgotten word re-echoes in our memory and gathers clarity as we are willing to once again to hear. To hear. To hear what? To hear the truth that is true always. So, with what we have just learned here about the truth, about true, sincere gratitude, so we're going to walk. We're going to live. We're going to experience. It says, so walk then in gratitude, the way of love. This is the way we're going to live. In this loving, knowing of who we are and who humanity is in all living things and who our Father is. This is the way that we're going to live and give thanks for it. And be appreciative and demonstrate that appreciation through our kindness one towards another. He said this is asking a lot. It's not asking a lot at all once you understand. We can experience this. You can experience this. You can do it. Jesus showed us that it can be done. He's no special guy. You have equality with him. You have all the wherewithal that Jesus has to walk in love. You do. You can do it. It's but a recognition. It's but a what? Committed decision that we make. It can be done. It says for hatred. He says walk in this way of love. He said for hatred is forgotten when we lay comparisons aside. Hatred is forgotten when we lay comparisons aside. So when we hold on to our comparisons, we're holding on to hatred. We're holding on to hatred. We're despising our brother. We're comparing ourselves and seeing our brother as less than us. That's why this high demonstration of this idea of superiority that's going on in the day's platform, the day's world, where this one race thinks that, you know, their superiority is being threatened, that there is real superiority. There's supremacy. There's inequality. They think it's real, and they'll really do pick up their guns and fight for it. That's why you see how insane that is. It says because what? The comparisons are holding hatred within our minds. He says, but when we let go of all comparisons, when we lay aside all comparison, we lay aside all hate. And what remains is love. What more remains as obstacles to peace when we lay aside our comparison? It says the fear of God is now undone at last. With what that fear that we have held of a creator that is fearful. He said that is laid aside when we lay aside our comparisons. Also, he says the fear of God is now undone at last, and we forgive without comparing. We forgive without the comparison. We give gratitude without comparison. It says, thus we cannot choose to overlook some things and yet retain some other things still locked away as sin. No, all things are free. All things are lawful. Nothing separates us. There is no sin. Where there's no sin, there's nothing to compare. Where there's sin consciousness, there's comparison. So really getting to the root here is that our belief that something It's sinful. It's there because we've compared it to something else. And so to really be free of sin consciousness and guilt and fear, we must lay down all comparisons, all of them. Wow, you say, Oliver, how can this be? Well, Jesus showed us how it can be. And it can be that way in our life, but it's something that we have to learn. And gratitude is a lesson here that we're learning today, what sincere gratitude is. But it requires a complete laying down of the ego thought system and the taking up of what? Christ's vision. It's the taking up of reality. What is real? What is true? What is eternal? What is loving? It says, when we forgive, or when our forgiveness is complete, it says we will have total gratitude when our forgiveness is complete. That means if we are holding one grievance against anyone, just one, when we are still the jailer and we're still imprisoning someone, or some group or something, it says our forgiveness is not complete. And thus we're still what? We're still playing around with hatred. I know this is bringing clarity to you, and you're saying, oh, who can do this? You can, I can. And we begin to do it by practicing today in this moment. Sincere gratitude, which includes the letting go of all things, which includes allowing all things to be free in you, which includes dropping all of our traditional thinking, all of the mores that we have made, and allowing light to be, and allowing the reality of God and his oneness and his beauty and his unity that he has what? Placed in all of his creation. Allow it to be. So when our forgiveness is complete, we will have total love. We will have total gratitude. For we will see that everything has earned the right to love by being loving, even to our very own self. Yourself has the right to love and be loved. It starts with yourself. Love yourself, because you have let all things go free. You can't love yourself when you haven't let all things go free. When you're holding on to an idea of comparison. Today we learn to think of gratitude. Notice now. Today we're learning to think of gratitude in place of anger, in place of malice, and in place of revenge, because where there is comparison, there is anger, there is malice, there is revenge, there is hatred. In the ego thought system of separation, that's where it lies. But when we embrace the atonement for ourselves and embrace the oneness and the unity of us all, we begin to think of gratitude in place of these things. If we wonder, why do we always venture into anger, into malice, into revenge? It's because we're not seeing the unity that we are. We have been given everything. All of us equally. There is no specialness. There's no special place in God. There's no specialness in God. As much as people promote that, there is no specialness. There is no remnant. There is no special people. There is no special religion. As much as we have taught that and we promoted that for thousands of years, that God's got a special people. God's got a special person. God's got a special this and a special that. God is not a respecter of person. God is what? God is the encompassing, all-inclusive one. But there's no exceptions. No one has an advantage over the other. You know how we work. If we refuse to recognize this, that we have been given everything, all things are ours, all things are yours. We are not entitled. Therefore, it says, if we refuse to recognize that we've been given everything, we are not entitled, therefore, to our bitterness and to a self-perception, which regards us in a place of merciless pursuit, where we are badgered ceasingly and pushed about without a thought of or care for us or for our future. It says this is what we will not. This is the way that we will not think when we understand that we've been given everything. We will not think in this way. We would not be bitter. We would not be in self-perception that is merciless. And not feeling cared for. We only feel that way because we don't think we have everything. And so, gratitude becomes the single thought we substitute for these insane perceptions. God has cared for us and called all of us his offspring. All of us. Can there be more than this? As God has poured his entire being and shared his entire being with us. Can there be more than this? Can the fact and the reality that you and God are one? Can the fact and the reality that all that God is, you are? Can the fact of the reality that you have been with God from the beginning? You just forgot. We just forgot. When the fact is that we will be with God throughout all eternity. The fact that we are not these limited bodies in this limited world, demonstrating all this limitlessness and scarcity and fear and hurt and pain and suffering and loss and birth and death, that we are not that. The fact that we are not that, but who we are is what God is. And what God is who we are. And as our minds become transformed and renewed to these God thoughts and realities, we begin to shine the light that we are into the dream of separation. We begin to bring all the error to the truth of what and who we are. We begin to walk the world as the healers and as the saviors of the world, walking in love and in gratitude. That's the effect. Our gratitude will pave the way to our Creator and shorten our learning time by more than we could ever dream of. Our gratitude. Gratitude goes hand in hand with love. And where one is, the other must be found. For gratitude is but an aspect of the love which is the source of all creation. So when we're not in sincere gratitude, we have we have not lost, but we have forgotten our way. We have forgotten who we are as love. God give thanks to us for being what we are. God give thanks to us for being what we are. In truth, his own completion. This is who we are. We are God's own completion. We're the complete ones of God. And it says, and the source of love. We are the source of the love of God. We are. Why? Because it has been placed in us in creation. Along with him. So it is not that fact that God is the source of everything, but because we are one with God, that means that we're the source of everything. Oh my God. This is who you are. And so we give thanks. This is what we give thanks for. Now you see the littleness or the nothingness of comparison. Now you see the littleness and the nothingness of a tiny belief in separation. That it blinded all of this. It veiled all of this from us. But now we know the veil has been rent, the veil has been lifted, and now we see clearly who we are as God's very own completion. The Bible calls it this way. The Bible says it this way. It says that we are to the praise of his glory. And see, we got it wrong when we think, we get it wrong when we say, only God gets the glory. Only God gets the praise. We are nothing. Well, that's an ego thought system. That is a comparison. That is not embracing your true self. That's religion. That's what has put the veil over your eyes. There is no glory that God doesn't share with you and with all his creation. There is no glory that God doesn't share completely, 100%, to the point where he said, you are the source of it too. Compare that. If you want to compare that to what we have thought. And we see the insanity in the comparison. There is none. We are who we are by God's creation and nothing else. Doesn't need explaining. It doesn't need definition. It is what it is. You are who you are. I am that I am. God is. And that is all that we need to know. God is. And for that, we are grateful. For that, we're happy. We're joyous. We're appreciative. For that, we express the kindness that we all share. He said that we are the very source of all of this with him. It says our gratitude to God is one with his to us. So there's this constant love and loving and lovableness that we all share, that is constant, that is continuous, that is ongoing, that is unaltered, that is unchanged. When we wake up to it. It's the unity that we share. For love can walk, for love can live, for love can demonstrate. For love can walk no road except the road of gratitude because they are one. For gratitude can walk no road but the road of love because they're one and the same. They are an aspect of each other, just like you and I. We are an aspect of each other. We can only walk the same road. And thus we go. And thus we go, you and I. And thus we go who walk the way to God in gratitude. So surely love is the way. It's the only way that we walk in gratitude, that we walk in love, that we walk in and as God. Now, I am so happy and I am so grateful for the sharing of the oneself. That there is no separation. There is no separate being. There is no separate life. There is no separation. There's only the one unity that we all share. And we can say God is. And so it is. And that's our workbook lesson for the day, 195. Love is the way we walk in gratitude. Practice it today. Think about it. You'll be glad you did. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.